This altcoin very well could be the most underrated crypto on the entire market. Not only could it see monumental growth that we haven't seen before, but it very well could be getting the next ETF. This Bloomberg analyst, guys, predicted with a 90% chance that a Bitcoin ETF would be approved in January. Obviously, this article is from January 9th. The Bitcoin ETF was approved. So we want to take this very seriously. He was interviewed on Twitter most recently by the Wolf of All Street, Scott Melker, and James here has a thing or two to say about an Ethereum ETF.
I viewed the SEC kind of veering and pivoting away from fighting Ethereum and Bitcoin on this front, and they're going to go basically wage war on the rest of crypto. So I think the path of least resistance here is just to approve these things. The dates to watch are VanEck is May 23rd. That's their final deadline. That's the equivalent of ARK 21 shares January 10th, which is the first final deadline. That said, I am nowhere near as confident as we were with the Bitcoin ETFs. I'm probably around 60%. The CME Ethereum market is way smaller, way less volume. There's way less open interest. So the SEC could kind of draw distinctions there. They could try to draw distinctions with the proof of stake versus proof of work. There's a lot of avenues they can go to kind of kick this can down the road further. We'll know more in the coming months.
Now, I think Scott might have a thing or two or a little crush on James there with that audio edit, but it's okay. I do too. This is huge, guys. A 60% chance is massive in the crypto industry, especially when we see James putting out tweets like this. As you can see, he doubled down on this on Twitter, where he said the only date that matters for a spot Ethereum ETF at this time is May 23rd, which is going to be VanEck US's final decision date. And as he mentioned, just like the ARK Investments ETF in early January, on January 10th, this is going to be that final deadline where people are now starting to anticipate the SEC just approves every single Ethereum ETF. Now, Standard Chartered came out and said that Ethereum could be hitting a $4,000 price range by May if this were to occur, when Ethereum ETF is, of course, approved. You'll notice that they say during its case against Ripple, this is responding to the SEC's decision with, of course, the Bitcoin ETF. They said that during its case against Ripple in June 2023, the SEC did not list Ethereum or Bitcoin among the 67 coins and tokens that it claimed were securities. In addition, ETH, like Bitcoin, is a listed and regulated futures contract on the CME, or Chicago Mercantile Exchange. The bank expects pending applications for ETH US spot ETFs to be approved on the 23rd of this year in May. First current market conditions, guys. These are the reason why they're anticipating this pattern, that they're anticipating an approval of an ETF, and they believe will push the price of Ethereum up to $4,000. Now, their first reason is going to be because current market expectations for the probability of the 23rd of May approval date would have to be low, as was the case for Bitcoin ETF. So they are saying that even though it appears in the media with multiple outlets saying that this approval won't happen, just like they did with the Bitcoin ETF, we're getting the same expectations out of the market for Ethereum's ETF. Second, the market implied probability of approval would have to be wrong. You see, Grayscale also has an Ethereum trust, just like it did for Bitcoin. And they want to turn this into an ETF, just like I said, again with Bitcoin. Now, the denial of that application would likely lead to another appeal by Grayscale, which they won earlier this year or last year. And we see no fundamental reason for the SEC to view Ethereum differently than the CME already does. The third reason for a $4,000 Ethereum is going to be several spot Ethereum ETFs would need to be approved on the 23rd of May. Now, they also say because as a result, heading into the expected approval date, we would see and expect Ethereum prices to track or outperform Bitcoin uptrend during the comparable period. This should enable it to be rolled out on Ethereum mainnet in late February. So just like Bitcoin's ETFs, with all of the anticipation, everybody's saying it's going to get postponed again further out. Grayscale won a legal battle against the SEC, which allowed them to push through that Bitcoin ETF. And they have the same exact mechanism set up with their Ethereum trust. Now, the fourth reason, though, is going to be a fundamental reason on Ethereum, which is they have a massive upgrade taking place between the 30th of January and the 7th of February, which I actually believe these were test nets, and it should be launching sometime in late March or April, up towards that Bitcoin halving. So this should enable it to roll out that Ethereum mainnet and pump that price up on Ethereum's price charts. And of course, as we see ARK Investments coming out and showing that they have another ETF filing or application, they're all restructuring their applications and their forms in the anticipation that the SEC is going to approve all of the filings again in May on the 23rd. We can also see that the 25% of Ethereum supply is now staked on its network. The amount of Ether supply staked on the Ethereum network is starting to explode, with staking rewards declining from a peak of 8.6% from one of their last upgrades to now under 4%. So even though we are going to get a reward reduction, more and more institutions and more investors and whales are starting to stake their Ethereum in anticipation that they believe the network isn't only getting stronger, more adopted, but those prices are going to rise. This is a very bullish indicator that we're starting to see more accumulation at these levels rather than seeing people actually sell off, which goes to show again that markets are anticipating the approval of that ETF. Now, on top of this, you have Ethereum's deflation picks picking up pace. This comes from Leon Wademan on Twitter, an on-chain insight analyst. This picture depicts that Ethereum supply, guys, is actually deflationary, with a supply change of over almost 4,052 Ethereum, which is equivalent to $10 million UST. Yes, this is just the last week. In the last 7 days, over 4,000 Ethereum have been burned off, which means the current circulating supply is deflating. There's becoming less and less Ethereum available. So not only are more people staking on the network, not only do we have ETFs looking to be approved as early as May, we have the Denkin upgrade looking to launch around the Bitcoin halving. Those are all bullish catalysts. We also have Ethereum deflating at levels we haven't seen before. So this really just makes you think, guys, what happens if a Bitcoin or an Ethereum-based ETF were to launch? Well, going back to James here, he shows that nearing over $3 billion have inflowed into Fidelity's FBTC, into the ETF for Fidelity. And that is just one. This chart goes to show how much volume, how many flows, assets, everything is going in and out of these markets. Billions upon billions of dollars, guys, are going into these Bitcoin ETFs. So even if a little bit of a fraction of that is put into Ethereum funds, there is still a sign that we see a lot of adoption and a lot of reasoning that institutions are anticipating that adoption, that those ETFs are going to be approved in May, which would, of course, send the price of Ethereum, guys, to absurd levels. Now, of course, I put the 8,700 here as a random range. You can see that's actually all the way in the year 2020, almost 2030. So that was a representation. But let me know if you agree in the comments below with Standard Charter. They are predicting a $4,000 Ethereum by May. And what I want to point out, guys, is just like the previous events, when it's buy the rumor, sell the news, what we could start to see is going to be what happened in the previous cycles of these previous halvings. What I want to show you guys is the historical price action for Bitcoin coming up to the halving. So this green bar with this red line right here, we can see it says halving about every single 4 years. This is our cycle. So with the first Bitcoin halving, we had prices run up towards it, dip below it, run up again towards it as it approached it within the matter of like that 30 days, and then trade sideways for a while. Moved to 2016, 2017, we had the price of Bitcoin run up all the way up to like $600 before falling down to $575. So massive pullback again from the 2016 to 2017 halving. Again, buy the rumors, sell the news. Price ran up, news came out, price dropped. 2020, this last cycle that we had in 2020 to 2021, prices ran up to it. In fact, they probably wouldn't have ran up even more, but we had COVID-19. Price ran up to it. Bitcoin halving happened. We touched almost $10,000, fell all the way down to nearly $8,900 and traded sideways. Again, we're coming up to this range. So we are at a much higher level than previous cycles. But if we do follow previous cycles, history may not always repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. We could expect a run-up for Ethereum's price up towards that Bitcoin halving. And of course, with all of these catalysts, could mean we see that $4,000 price target. Now, I'm going to be on the more conservative side, right? I would love to see that. I would be maybe looking more towards the 3,200 range if we continue this upward momentum, and that's putting Bitcoin at like a $55,000 level. But let me know in the comments, what prices do you believe we're going to see Bitcoin hit and Ethereum hit before this halving cycle? Because as I know right now, the one thing we can guarantee, the one thing that we do know is Ethereum is definitely undervalued in this market with all of the bullish catalysts that are coming out.